So today we're talking about the intelligence of the body. And of course, uh, everybody on this call subscribes to the intelligence of the body. Otherwise, you wouldn't be engaged in a practice that uses the body to gain understanding and awareness. But we are really taught traditionally in the West that it is the mind that teaches or sends all the information to the body, and that the mind controls, is the seat of intelligence in the body. And actually, the body is this massive network of uh, energy pathways, of nerves, and it is really all these pathways communicate with one another, and even to a cellular level. So the body really acts independently, can act independently of the mind. And so let's see, Marie, if you could mute yourself. Awesome. If you think about the one area of the body that we tend to focus on a lot in yoga, and perhaps with good reason, if you think about the heart, say, um, the heart is not only a pump, but the heart sends information to the rest of the body. It acts independently. It can make functional decisions, the heart, and it can regulate itself. The heart sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. The heart sends more signals to the brain than the other way around. So there's a field of study right now called neurocardiology that is strongly, there's strong research to suggest that the heart is a sensory organ, and that it can process information, and that it can function on its own. Anyway, so if you would begin just with your eyes closed down, if that's comfortable for you, and take your hand, one hand, to your heart space. This is Mary Oliver. As for the body, it is solid and strong and curious and full of detail. It wants to polish itself. It wants to love another body. It is the only vessel in the world that can hold, with a mixture of power and sweetness, words, song, gesture, passion, ideas, ingenuity, devotion, merriment, vanity, and virtue. So the invitation today, we won't be doing anything particularly unusual in practice. It'll be pretty standard practice. But the invitation is to really allow yourself to fully fall or fully drop into your body. Allow yourself to be with the sensations and pulsations and vibrations in the body. You know, it's a solid practice. Yoga is a solid practice. The body, the bones, right, of the body. So really giving yourself permission to get out of your headspace and into the solidity of your body. You might invite a word at this time. You might invite a word that would help guide you or inspire you as you practice today. Something like playful, curious. It might be accepting, surrender. Just invite a word that might help you really establish yourself in your body this morning. And if you're not already to your back, we'll begin on our back. And you can stretch out long on your mat. And take your feet out to the outer corners of the bottom of your mat and your arms out to 45 degrees. So you have the shape of an X in your body. And feel your body resting on the floor, on the earth. Feel the heaviness of your body. Allow gravity here to befriend you. And again, it helps, I think, to periodically close down the eyes to come into the body. So if you want to practice the entire time with your eyes closed, that's fine. I think that might help you access the body better. And then here, just reaching through one heel and through the other heel. So back and forth, pressing through your heels, toes pulled back towards your shins. And then just noting in your body what else gets to moving here? What else gets excited by this movement? Take your time and move skillfully in your own body. We've got some younger bodies, some older bodies, maybe bodies with injuries. And then coming back to center now, just keeping your feet wide, take your toes and turn them over to the left, and then back through center and over to the right. And back and forth, and you'll feel as you do this, hopefully your whole leg, one leg internally rotating and one leg externally rotating. Just sweeping the feet back and forth. And then bend your knees, take the soles of your feet to the floor as wide as the edge of your mat. Readjust as needed, and then just let your knees fall softly back and forth, side to side. Because we work with embodiment in an embodied practice, allow for spontaneity. If you want to rest on one side, extend the opposite arm up, really feel a stretch through the side body. Allow yourself to do that. Permission to really delight in your body, to follow the desires of your body. And then coming back to center, to the position of comfort with your knees bent, the soles of your feet on the floor. You could take your arms alongside your body here. And I'll extend one leg onto the floor just for visual purposes, but you could keep your knees bent. Bring your one knee into your chest. That's going to be your exhale. And on your inhale, slowly extend the leg towards the ceiling, keeping toes pulled back towards shins, extending through the knee and then extending the ball of the foot towards the ceiling and then toes away and then continue to reach your leg about 45 degrees away from your body. And then exhale, bring everything back into your chest. So the inhale is lengthening, lengthen through the ball of the foot, then toes away, then stretch the leg long, and then exhale to bring that knee in towards your chest, bringing everything back into flexion. Okay, so that's the movement, and you work at your own speed. Engage the core, upstroke the navel with each exhale. And then the next time you've got your knee in towards your chest, go ahead and interlace your hands on the front of your shin and draw the knee in a little closer. You could hover the other leg off the floor if you wanted to. Breathe here for one full breath cycle. And then reach that same leg up towards the ceiling. Interlace your hands behind your hamstring now. Press into your hands and pull back against your leg with your hands, opening the back of your leg evenly through the knee. You could draw your toes back towards your shin strongly. You could open through the calf. And then release, and we'll take the other leg. So same action, you'll draw everything in towards your body on the exhale. On the inhale, as you extend through your knee, extend through the ankle, press the ball of the foot away first, then reach the toes away, then reach the leg away. Exhale to bring everything back in. And go at a speed that feels skillful for you. Next time you have your knee in towards your chest, interlace the hands on the shin and draw the knee in, squeeze the knee into your chest. Feel the work of your hip flexor, one full breath cycle. And then reach that leg towards the ceiling, interlace your hands behind your thigh on the hamstring area. Press into your hands, pull back against your leg with your hands. You can pull your toes back towards your shins evenly. You'll feel a stretch in the calf. You'll feel a work in the front of the leg, the tibialis anterior. And then release both legs down to the floor and draw your toes back towards your shins. Reach your arms alongside your body as if you're standing in Tadasana. And then bend your knees again. Take the soles of your feet to the floor about hip distance apart, and your feet pretty close to your buttocks. And then here, with your hands on your hips, you could rest the heel of your hand on your hip pointers. Just begin to feel a movement in the pelvis, tilting the pubic bone away from the navel, and then tilting pubic bone back towards navel. So tilting the pelvis away, and then back towards you. And so you'll feel the lower back lift away from the floor on the inhale, and on the exhale, lower back reaches back towards the floor as you upstroke the navel. And then from here, you'll need to take one of your blocks if you have one. If you don't, you work without it. But draw your legs up and stack your lower legs parallel to one another and parallel to the floor. And take your block and squeeze it between your upper inner thighs. Now here, if you can, maintain the natural curve in your back so that the back is not completely, lumbar spine is not completely into the floor, but you have just enough space for your credit card to slide under there. Take your hands behind your head and release your hands behind your head here. And then just breathe here. On your inhale, feel your belly lift and fill. And on your exhale, draw your navel up and in and squeeze everything in towards the midline and press your legs together against the block. And repeat this anywhere from 8 to 20 times. Just breath. And on the exhale, squeezing everything in, but keeping just a little bit of space underneath your back. If you get lost in thought, you can come back to your word that you chose or the intensity in the body as we do something that's a little bit fierce. On your next exhale, draw your elbows together, just your elbows together. Inhale, open up, keep everything else the same, squeezing the block, drawing navel up and in, squeezing sideways in. Just on the exhale, draw your elbows towards one another. And on the inhale, open, press your elbows, forearms into the floor. Great, and then keep the block between your legs, but take your feet back to the floor. And we can bring the hands now alongside the body again, palms down. Okay, and find the natural curve in your back. So draw the pubic bone slightly away from the navel. And then pressing into your feet, lift your hips. Squeeze the block, lift your hips. Exhale, roll back down, one vertebra at a time. Once your hips come to the floor, find the natural curve in your low back. Squeeze the block, press your feet into the floor. Inhale, lift the hips. Then exhale, lower everything back down. If you don't have a block, just keep the legs parallel to one another as you lift. Drawing your knees away from your hips. And then lowering back down. Now you can keep doing this movement with the arms alongside your body, pressing into the feet, lifting. Or as you lift the hips, you could draw the arms behind you so the backs of your hands touch the floor behind you. And then you could lower everything back down. And here, try coordinating the hands and the hips, finishing at the same time. So increasing body awareness. Keep your chin pointing up towards the ceiling slightly, so you also have the natural curve in the cervical spine in your neck as you continue this motion. And the next time you come back down to the floor, take your block again, place it between your upper inner thighs, draw the knees over the hips, lower legs parallel to the floor and parallel to one another. Interlace your hands behind your head once again. And on your inhale, feel the belly rise and the pubic bone moves slightly away from the navel. And on your exhale, draw your navel up and in. Now keep your elbows wide, but lift your head and shoulders as you squeeze everything in. Squeeze the block with your legs. Inhale, come back down to the floor. Press your forearms and elbows into the floor. And exhale, squeeze everything in. Keep elbows wide and your gaze up at the ceiling as you exhale up. And then inhale takes you back down to the floor. And do as many of those as your body would be delighting in right now. If you desire a little more fierceness, you can move the feet away from the hips slightly. Try to let the neck relax in your hands and just use the strength of your core here. And when you've had enough, just take your feet to the floor, remove the block, and set it over to the side. Keep your knees bent in the position of comfort. If you need to relieve the front of the hip flexors, you could stretch your legs long here and pull toes back towards shins so you're back in the Tadasana shape. And then bring your arms into the goalpost position. Okay, so slight bend or the cactus arms. Just press into the back of your head gently and lift and tuck your shoulder blades underneath your body. Feel the whole shoulder blade in connection with the back and the earth. Now bring your hands in front of your heart center and interlace your fingers and reach and press the palms towards the ceiling. Can you keep the shoulder blade pretty connected to the floor here? Pressing in, pressing up and away, palms towards the ceiling. And then you can draw your hands over to one side, back through center, and over to the other side. So feeling a stretch in the wrist, in the outside of the upper arm, outside of the shoulder. And coming back to center, and if you have the space in your room and in your body, bring your arms behind your head, reaching through your arms, feeling an opening in the underarms, the armpits, the side waist. And then you can bring your arms back to your sides and now roll to one side to come up or cross at the ankles and rock yourself up. And we'll meet on all fours. Place your hands underneath your shoulders as wide as the edge of your mat. Fingers spread, but spread evenly. So sometimes we turn the pinky out a little too far, the thumb out too far. Spread through the fingers evenly. And then take your knees and set them underneath your hips. Here, just roll through some cat-cow. So on your inhale, draw the heart space forward. Let the belly sink towards the floor and spread your tail feathers. And on your exhale, press into your hands, round your back, up towards the ceiling, tucking your tail and your chin. Again, just move at a pace that feels appropriate for you. And maybe connected to the word you chose. And now for the next couple, can you move the head and the pelvis at the same time? And then for the next couple of rounds, can you begin with the pelvis? So if you're, say, in cow, you tuck the tail first, then all the way through the spine, and then the head comes last as you press into cat. And then to go back into cow, you tilt the pubic bone away from the navel, so you move the hips first, then through your spine, head comes last. So initiate the cat cow with the tail and see maybe if you have a preference in your body. Which way do you enjoy more? And then just relax, let your body lead. And the next time you press into your hands and round your back, drop your hips back towards your heels. Inhale, bend through your elbows, slide your nose along your mat, come into cow. Exhale, press and round and drop your hips back to cat, into child's pose ultimately. Inhale, slide your nose along your mat, press up into a big cow shape. And exhale, round into cat, and then take your hips back into child's pose. And do a few just like this, in whatever way that your body feels pleasure, sensation. We'll try not to make it a good or bad thing or in any way evaluative. So just delight in the movement. Maybe you want to add some movement to the side as you move in and out of cat and cow and back and forth, so that the body comes out over the edge, the long edge of your mat. Maybe playing with less boundaries for you. The next time we all come into cow, we'll stay here, turn the toes under, lift the hips, just the hips, and the knees just off the floor, and draw your hips back. So press into your arms so your knees are, 6 inches off the floor, hips are pressed back, and then slowly straighten the legs towards straight as per capacity in your body. So have your feet pretty wide here, at least hip distance apart in this downward dog. And then on your next inhale, we'll actually drop back to our knees and come into the cow. Exhale, round your back, drop your hips back into child's pose. Inhale, press up, come back to the cow shape. Curl your toes, exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, drop your knees, come back to the cow shape. Exhale, round your back, press your hips back, child's pose. Inhale, come up into cow. You have this nice arch in your back that prepares you for downward dog. Turn the toes under, lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, so that's the little sequence. Come to the knees, come to cow. Exhale back into child's pose. Inhale back up into the cow, and turn the toes under. Exhale, downward facing dog. If you get it mixed up at all, it doesn't matter. Follow your body. We'll do a few of these. Allow your breath to guide you, be the container for your movement. So the breath lasts a little bit longer than each shape, each movement. The next time you find yourself in child's pose, just wait right there. And now bring your hands out to T, so arms out to T in your child's pose. Secure yourself with one hand and just pull your body slightly in the opposite direction. Just create a little opening in the armpit and the underside of your arm. So you'll take the other arm out to T and hold on with your hand and just sort of gently try to pull in the opposite direction. Won't be much, but you'll feel an opening in your armpit. Good, and then hands back out in front, slide yourself forward onto your belly and come into Sphinx. So elbows underneath shoulders. Lift and stretch through each leg, pressing into your forearms. Lift your navel off the floor. Lift your pubic bone off the floor. Lift your thighs off the floor. And then on your next exhale, lower everything back down. So we're going to be going into, this is just a way to come to forearm plank, but we're going to go there and you could have keep your forearms in that parallel position, or if you wanted to interlace your hands and have your a little bit of a triangular base there in front of you instead of the forearms parallel. You can play with whatever feels better to you. So lift your navel off the floor, lift your pubic bone off the floor, lift your thighs off the floor, curl your toes under and press your legs up and come into forearm plank. Keep drawing the navel up and in. Keep pressing into your forearms and broadening through your back. Broadening across the upper back. So notice in your body where the work is being asked of you and where you might be holding otherwise. So if you're holding tension in your jaw, your face, can you let that go? Great. Now lower your knees and thighs, pubic bone and navel. Bring your arms alongside your body. Take your forehead to the floor. Bend your knees and just softly move your legs back and forth, releasing any tension in your low back. And then release your legs back down to the floor. Draw your shoulder blades onto your back, so lift your shoulder tops. Reach your hands towards your feet. Inhale and lift your head and shoulders. You could stay here. You could lift the legs as well, or you could bring the arms out to a T, a little bit more work in the body. But keep the back long, the length in the back. Draw your navel up away from the floor, or try to. Okay, and reaching. Gaze is just right off the front edge of your mat. Release your legs, forehead, bring your hands underneath your shoulders, press yourself back up to a tabletop. resting just for one breath in tabletop. And then the next time that you inhale and you get the little cow motion, turn the toes under, exhale, press up to downward facing dog. And from downward facing dog, you'll walk up to your hands, keep your knees bent as much as you need to. And here, hopefully you have a block or something for your inhale to lengthen through your back in Ardha Uttanasana. So head reaches away from pelvis. Exhale, fold again. And then take your hands to your hips, elbows in tight, and press up to standing. Ah, very good. So in this Tadasana now, just standing in Tadasana, allow your arms to relax along your side. You might take here one hand on your head, one hand on your sacrum. Back, you know, at the back here, if that works for you. And see if you can line these up. Line your head up with your pelvis. Now close your eyes, let your arms rest to your side, and feel the length of your spine. So as if someone were pulling on a string. Feel your whole length of your body. And here now, inhale and reach the arms up overhead. And exhale, hands through heart center and fold. If you've got your block here, inhale to Ardha Uttanasana. And exhale, fold again. Good. And now from this forward fold, set your hips back and your arms forward in a sort of variation of Utkatasana, chair pose, fierce pose. Good. And then tip your body forward, take your arms back, and come into this variation of a forward fold. And then you'll move back and forth, so you'll set your hips down, bring your arms forward. And then you'll swing your arms back and fold. You could take your hands and interlace them at your waist, at your sacrum if you wanted, pull them off your back. But this is the vinyasa, moving back and forth from this fierce pose into sort of a forward fold. And we'll meet in the Utkatasana, fierce pose. Take your hands to your hips now and straighten up slightly. Take your weight into your right foot. Pick your left foot up off the floor and step it back into warrior one. Good. Take a few breaths here to ground your feet, ground your legs. Weight in the outside edge of the back heel, so your back leg and front leg are doing the same work. And then inhale, reach your arms up. Reach through your ring fingers. As you reach and extend, press your feet into the floor. On your exhale, straighten through your front leg, bring your hands to your sacrum and bow slightly. And then on your inhale, bend through your front leg, reach the arms back up through the ring fingers, reaching the arms, shoulder blades on back, but legs secure. And on your exhale, you'll fold, take your hands to your back, front legs, any position of straight, okay? So you might have your hands just resting on your sacrum. You might be able to take opposite elbows with opposite hands. Again, move at a speed that works for you. that feels supportive, delightful, and helps you really access whatever it is you were wanting to work with today. Curiosity, acceptance, letting go, playfulness. We'll meet with the arms up. Okay, so reaching through the fingertips. Now bring your arms forward as you come up onto the back toes, and then either sliding the back foot just halfway there. You could take your hands to your hips if you wanted, or leave them out in the front, or bring them to heart center. Just begin to play with the back leg lifting slightly in any variation of Warrior Three. You might have your foot on the ground. You might have your leg in the air. Hands could be out front or at your heart center or at your hips, so you could feel for the evenness of your hips. And then bend into the front leg slightly and step the back foot back, coming back to Warrior One legs. Inhale, reach the arms up, reach through the ring finger. Exhale, as you straighten the front leg, bring your hands down to the floor around your front leg and step both feet back to downward facing dog. Take 3 full breaths here in your downward facing dog. If you want to add some fire, bring the elbows towards the floor or come into full plank. You can add fire here to your practice. And on your next inhale, walk your feet up towards your hands in the fold with the legs bent. And then inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, reach the head away from the tail. Exhale, fold again, drop your seat back, bring your hands out in front, back into the fierce pose. This time we'll take a twist here. So bringing, it's nice to use the block if you want to. You could squeeze the block between your knees. And then bringing left hand to left hip, you can just come across into a twist. Right hand to the opposite leg. And back to center. And taking the other side. And back, if you've used the block, go ahead and remove that. We'll take hands to hips, slightly stand up. Now put your weight into the opposite foot, lifting your foot, step back. So now you're in Warrior One on the other side. Take a minute here to feel the back heel particularly grounded, playing with all the space in your mat if you need it. So the hips, most of our hips will not be completely square to the short edge of the mat, just off a little bit, but we can turn the upper body to line up square with the front edge of the mat. Inhale, arms come up, reaching through the ring finger. And exhale, we'll sort of straighten the front leg and just lean forward. Now, if you need to shorten your stance, do that. It is your body. It is your practice. And we want this to be supportive, healing, delightful. Perhaps you just stay, you hold, You get good information when you just hold a posture. And perhaps you need to move. You might open the arms on the inhale, close back up on the exhale. But now we're all going to bring the hands behind or forward as whatever works better in your body. Sometimes this works better to be guiding forward with the upper body. Sometimes the arms give us that, and we're going to step the back foot either up partially, or we'll begin to lift the back leg in some version of Warrior Three. You could use your block here, just resting on your block or your blocks, lifting the back leg, sucking this standing leg hip in. Wherever you are, make it yours. Claim it. If you fall out, then just come back. From here, we'll step the back foot back, coming back to Warrior One. Inhale, reach the fingers towards the ceiling. Exhale, fold. Hands down around the front foot, step back to the downward facing dog. Bend your knees and draw the pubic bone away from the navel. You want the arch in the back, a little bit of anterior tilt in the pelvis. Then begin to re-straighten the legs and see if that gives you a more a downward facing dog that really is working with length in the back. Length in the back. Good. From here, let's everyone rock forward into the high dandasana. Press the hands into the floor. Press the floor away, reaching your back towards the ceiling, your upper back towards the ceiling. Draw the navel up and in. You could have your knees to the floor here if that's what you desired this morning. And then walk your feet up towards your hands. Come into the Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And then hands to your hips, elbows in tight. We'll bend at the waist and come up. Take your time. And come back to Tadasana. Let's interlace the hands behind the head. And on your next exhale, we'll press hands in one direction, hips in the opposite direction. Inhale back to center, and then take it in the opposite direction. Arms go one way, hips the other. Let the breath carry you from one shape to the other. And once you've done an even number, coming back to center now, widen your stance just a little bit. And inhale, arms up. Exhale, one hand comes down to the other side, the other arm reaching away. See if you can stay relatively in the same plane here as you inhale. Come to the other side. And just move back and forth in this pattern as skillfully as possible. And what we mean by that in yoga is awareness, engagement, excellent engagement, not going beyond the edge, just reaching the edge and exploring there. We'll come back to center. And now if you would just open up your stance facing the long edge of your mat as I am. So bring your feet apart, good wide stance. Here, if you have your block, it'd be handy to have it to the front of your mat. And on the outside of that front foot, we're going to move towards triangle. So take the front foot and turn it and line up the front foot with the long edge of your mat. And then pick up your heel in the back foot and turn that heel out. Right there's the triangle alignment. Mm-hmm. Now reach your arms out and just take a peek here at your arms and see that your arms are both reaching out evenly from the shoulders. So you don't have one in the back plane of the body, one in the front plane, but nice and even. Good. And then we'll reach the front arm forward. Side body reaches forward and tilt down to the block or the shin or your thigh. I like the block really a little bit behind the foot, maybe lined up the lower leg. Top hand can come to your hip. Now here, encourage the front leg to externally rotate. So the thigh externally rotates. You can take your hands and just externally rotate. Press through the big toe mound. Externally rotate the front thigh. And then really feel both legs engaged equally here. Now, if you want to, you could take the top arm, stack it over the bottom arm. If you've got your hand on your shin, press your shin into your hand back into your thin shin. And again, how does it feel to hold? What are the sensations? Okay. And if it's a challenge for you to hold, you can play with vinyasing a little bit, maybe bending the front knee, coming in back into the triangle. Good. Then we'll all take our top hand to our hip, bend the front knee. You can grab your block here. We're going to sweep up, turn the feet, and set up the other side. So front foot lines up with the long edge of the mat. Pick up the heel of the back foot and turn it out. Lining up your arms and taking a look first. And now what might be fun to do is just even to close your eyes and see if you can find that same alignment. Externally rotate the front thigh while pressing through the front big toe. And then reaching with the front arm, front side body. Maybe you come to your thigh, your shin, or a block. Maybe you go all the way to the floor. But maintain this openness in the heart space here, this openness in the posture itself. So we're not bending over at the waist. You could reach the top arm up. You could reach the top arm over. could reach the bottom arm out, really testing your core. Bending through the front leg, sweeping yourself back up. We'll just take a wide stance here. Then you could have your block in front if you wanted to come into just a really accessible inversion, hands to hips, and we'll tilt the pelvis forward. Right, we're going to tilt the pubic bone away from the navel, get that little arch in the back, and then fold, hinging down, hinging at the waist. Good. Right here, you could set your forehead on a block. Bring your weight in more into the balls of your feet. Maybe you don't need the block. You can have your head all the way to the floor. Or you could just rest your hands underneath your sternum. Inversion's really awesome for the body. Turning the pump upside down. This is a very accessible inversion. And from here now, friends, just begin to heel toe your feet towards one another until you can, and then you'll take your block and move it. Either you're going to sit on your block or you're just going to come into a big squat. So you could be sitting on your block, or you could be pressing the legs into the elbows squeeze back against the legs, and you're in a quite a big squat. Mm-hmm. And then from here, you can come, the feet might need to come a little closer together, but you can come all the way down and come into a hip balance. I'll just turn here, a hip balance. So taking legs up, hands behind the thighs or out front, or you might straighten the legs and come into Navasana, boat pose. And then from here, everyone, hands behind the legs, lower yourself down to the floor. We're almost there, almost to Shavasana. So now on your back, taking anything else that you might need. If you need a figure 4, supine, pigeon stretch, you need a little twisting. If you're ready to go right into Shavasana, just now really one of the harder poses, letting go, letting everything now come back to feeling the firmness of the earth, bones, the solidity of your body. Do take your feet wide. Let the feet fall out to the side. Press slightly into the back of your head and tuck the shoulder blades under, turning palms up to receive. And you might close your eyes down if it's comfortable for you and just feel all the sensations. Release any tension in your face, particularly around your eyes, the mental grasping. Relax your jaw so the teeth are not touching and the lips just barely touching. As for the body, it is solid and strong and curious and full of detail. It wants to polish itself. It wants to love another body. It is the only vessel in the world that can hold, with a mixture of power and sweetness, words, song, gesture, passion, ideas, ingenuity, devotion, merriment, vanity, and virtue. I would invite you to take your hand to your heart center and then your opposite hand on top and offer yourself an internal namaste, honoring your own brightness. And then anyone who comes to mind this morning who made it possible for you to pause and take a practice, gratitude for that person. And then perhaps just a word of gratitude to your body, your vessel, for the intelligence it brings to your life, the wisdom. And stay in Shavasana as long as you like. If you'd like to return to your seat, you can do so. And with your hands on your heart center, in a gesture of prayer that feels like it works for you, check in with the body here. May the merit of our practice, may the work that we do encourage all beings to unveil the hidden brilliance that lies within. Namaste.